Good morning or good evening, everybody, depending on when you are going to watch this program. Let us begin with a Shanti mantra. Please chant. Om Mukam Karoti Vachalam Bhangum Langhayate Girim Yatkripatamaham Vande Paramanandamadhavam. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. I offer my loving salutations to the blissful Lord Madhava, by whose grace even the mute can become eloquent and the lame can cross over mountains and reach his destination. May he bestow his grace upon us all. Om peace. May there be peace and joy in our hearts. May there be peace and harmony amongst all beings. And may there be peace everywhere in nature. Nature. Let us continue our study of the topic of yajna, sacrifice, in the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. In the Vedic context, yajna means elaborate Vedic rituals extending over many days, involving very elaborate sacrificial rites, chanting of Vedic mantras and offering, making various offerings to the fire, Agni, for the well-being of all, and also for fulfilling their desires. Various kinds of yajnas are described in the Samhita and Brahmana portions of the Vedas, the Karmakanda of the Vedas. Karmakanda means the ritualistic portion of the Vedas, where rituals are described. And this portion of the Vedas contain innumerable hymns to various deities. The Vedas are divided into two parts, Karmakanda and Jnanakanda. Karmakanda means that part of the Vedas where the rituals are described, how to perform them, all those things. Jnanakanda means the Aranyaka and the Upanishads, mostly the Upanishads, which contained the knowledge of the self, Atmajnana, self-knowledge. So these yajna sacrifices are described in the Karmakanda of the Vedas. That is in the ancient Vedic context. In the present context, modern day context, as we discussed last time, it is not possible to perform all those elaborate Vedic yajnas, sacrifices. What we can do is we can perform all our actions as yajna. Whatever actions we do every day, if all those actions are done as yajna, as offering to God or to any larger cause, then that becomes yajna, without selfishness. Yajna means that, offering. Sacrifice or offerings. Sacrificing our selfish interest in the interest of the larger cause. Sacrificing the comfort of one individual for the comfort of a family. Sacrificing the comfort of one family for the well-being of a whole village. sacrificing the comfort of one well-being of one village in the interest of the whole country. Like this, yajna means sacrificing, giving up something in the interest of a larger cause. Therein lies our well-being. Otherwise, if we serve our own interests, we will be extremely selfish. Then there is no difference between human beings and animals. What distinguishes human beings from animals is their ability to think in larger and larger terms, not in terms of their own life, to fulfill their own physical needs, but the ability to think in very large terms, in the largest possible context, in the context of the whole universe. That ability only human beings have. So that is yajna means doing something, sacrificing something in order to gain a larger, in order to serve a larger interest. So that is the yajna that we are discussing. Today we are going to study two verses, 14 and 15. Begin with two verses, 14 and 15. We read verse number 13 last time. Verse number 13 in chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita says that, let me chant verse number 13. Yajñashishta shinas santo muchyante sarvakilbishaihi bhunjate te tvagam papa ye pachanti atmakaranat. Good people who partake of what remains after offering sacrifices are liberated from all sins. Any sin that may be involved in performing any action, any loss or injury, violence to some other beings or to nature, they will become free from that. Whereas the sinners who cook for their own sake live on their sin. Ye pachanti atmakaranat. Those people who lead an extremely selfish life, taking care of one's own self or not thinking about anybody else or anything else. Such people, they are not doing the right thing. They are performing sin. Without sharing anything, if we enjoy the gifts of nature and the fruits of labor of thousands of other people and the contribution of animals and plants to our lives, which we are enjoying every moment we are breathing. That means every moment we are being served by the plant kingdom, which gives the oxygen to breathe. Now we are receiving so much every moment. Now what are we giving in return to all those entities, animals and plants and nature and other people who are serving, working hard to make our lives possible? Everything in our life is possible. Every small thing in our life is possible only because of thousands of other people are working hard to make it possible. If you have to wear this shirt, how many people must have worked hard to make it possible for me to wear this shirt? I can say I bought this shirt with my own money, but how many people must have helped me to make that money? To make money, I must have some skill, some ability, some qualification. How many people must have worked hard to make it possible for me to acquire those skills, knowledge that I can exchange for money? And even if I have money, the whole commercial enterprise infrastructure must be there. If there are no shops to sell the goods I want, what will I do with the money? How many people must be working in the trade, in the business of making things available to us where we need, when we need, at the place where we need. So all these things are interconnected, as we saw last time. If we lead an extremely selfish life, cooking for oneself means leading very selfish, narrow-minded, just me and myself. not worrying about other people. Such people are not doing the right thing. They are leading a sinful life. So what is the key? The key is sharing. It's always a give and take in life. We receive so much, we don't recognize, we don't acknowledge, but we have to recognize how much we are receiving every moment of our life. And then what are we doing to return at least a part of what we receive? That should be considered. If we don't do that one, we are being sinful. That was verse number 13. Now, the next two verses are very important. Verses 14 and 15, they should be studied together. In the next two verses, Bhagavan Sri Krishna describes the cosmic yajna, not at the individual level also in the cosmic context, whole universe. In the whole universe, there is yajna going on every moment. Has been going on from beginning of creation. Every moment, yajna has been going on. And we are a part of that cycle. This is a cycle. The cycle of yajna that is going on all the time in the whole universe. Samashti, in the largest possible context, we have to know what is that, and we recognize our part in it, and we have to play our part in it. That's a very noble idea in these two verses, 14 and 15. In these two verses, the description is cosmic yajna in the Vedic context. We can translate that into the modern context easily. We will do that. So let me chant 14 and 15. Annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyadanna sambhavaha yajñād bhavati parjanyo yajñah karma samudbhavaha. Karma brahmodbhavam vidhi brahmakshara samudbhavam tasmat sarvagatam brahma nityam yajñe pratishtitam. Very important verses, these two verses, 14 and 15. First, we start from one end of the cycle. Annad bhavanti bhutani. Bhutani means all the beings. Three kinds of beings: human beings, animals, and plants. How are they sustained? How do they come into existence? Annat, from food. Without food, people cannot live, animals cannot live, plants cannot live. From where does food come? Parjanyadanna sambhavaha. Food can grow only if there is water. Water comes from rain. Parjanya means the god of rain. So from rainwater, plants are nourished. From plants, people, animals, and other plants are nourished. And Parjanyadanna sambhava, food comes from water. Annad bhavanti bhutani, from food people are sustained by food, and food comes from water. Where does water come from? Yajñād bhavati parjanyo. Parjanya comes from yajna. When the Vedic sacrifices are done, then they offer so many things into the fire, chanting Vedic mantras, and those things go into the sky, and then clouds are formed. Clouds are formed by water that evaporates from the ocean, sea, and river. So sun comes into the picture. Sun makes it possible for clouds to form by evaporating water from the water sources, ocean, sea, river, tanks, lakes, etc. And the evaporated water becomes vapors and clouds, and from cloud rain pours, making it possible for plants to grow, plants support human beings, animals and other plants. See how this cycle is going on. Yajñād bhavanti parjanyo yajña karma samudbhavaha. How does yajña happen? When we perform any action, karma. When we perform any action, that should be done as yajna, offering. Whatever I do, I must think of the benefit that that action brings not only to me, but to other beings, animals, plants and nature. How does this action that I am performing benefit not only me but other beings? That should be the question in my mind before we perform any action. Otherwise, if I do everything only for my own purpose, I am being extremely selfish and I am not doing yajna. I am not participating in this cosmic process. So that is going against the nature. Yajna karma samudbhavaha. Actions performed as yajna. Karma brahmodbhavam vidhi. Verse number 50. From where does karma come? Description of yajnas, how to perform sacrifices or how to perform any action, is described in the Vedas. One special feature I request you to note in verse number 15. In verse number 15, the word Brahma comes 3 times. But the meaning of Brahma is quite different in this particular verse only. In this verse number 15, Brahma means Veda. Brahma means the creator Brahma ordinarily, but in this verse number 15, the word Brahma comes 3 times and the meaning of Brahma here is Vedas. Karma brahmodbhavam vidhi. Karma is described in the Vedas. Vedas describe various kinds of sacrifices and scriptures tell us how to perform various kinds of work. How to do some work we know from the scriptures. Karma brahmodbhavam vidhi. Karma comes from Vedas. Vedas describe karma. Karma becomes yajna. Yajna results in rain. Rain results in food. Food supports all the beings. See the connection? The cycle is completed. Is going to be completed. Karma brahmodbhavam vidhi. Karma or yajna are described in the Vedas, in scriptures. From where did Veda come from? Vedas come from Brahma Akshara Samadbhavam. Brahma means Veda here. Akshara Samadbhavam. From Akshara means the imperishable Brahman, supreme reality, Paramatman, supreme being. He created the Vedas at the time of creation, along with the concept of yajna. Supreme Lord created the Vedas. Vedas describe karma or yajna. Karma becomes yajna. Yajna gives rise to water, rain. Rainwater gives rise to the plants, food. From plants food comes. Food supports the human beings, animals, plants. See the connection, the chain is being completed. Brahma Akshara Samadbhavam. Vedas come from Akshara. Akshara means the supreme reality, Parabrahman, Paramatman. Tasmat sarvagatam Brahma nityam yajne pratishtitam. Therefore, the all-pervading Veda is eternally rooted in sacrificial work. So all this means everything comes from something else and everything eventually comes from the supreme reality. And we are somewhere in this chain of events. Human beings, we play a part, we play a key part in this chain of events. Now let us look at this from the other point, look at this chain of events from the other end. What we saw so far was supreme reality Brahman. From Brahman, Veda comes. He created knowledge. Veda means knowledge, not necessarily only the books, but knowledge. From knowledge, we know how to perform karma. Karma results in yajna, becomes yajna. If it is done as yajna, it becomes yajna. Otherwise, it becomes selfish karma and does not benefit anybody. Probably the only person who benefits from it is the one who does it with a very selfish motive. That's not what we are considering here. Karma performed as yajna becomes yajna. Yajna results in rain, parjanya. Rain makes it possible for plants to grow. Plants provide food. From the food provided by the plants, all beings, human beings, animals and plants are sustained. So it's a chain of events. And we are there. And our part, we have to recognize what am I supposed to do. How am I sustained? My sustenance comes from food. Food comes from plants. Plants come possible from rain. Rain is possible because of yajna. Yajna is possible because karma has to be done. Karma becomes yajna. Karma is possible because of the description of karma, how to do is in the Vedas. Vedas come from Brahman, Parabrahman. That's the chain of events. And we play a key part in this chain, human beings. Animals also play a part. Animals, what do the animals do? They support other forms of life. Without animal life, can we live on this planet? What do plants? Plants also play a part without complaining. Human beings complain, why should I do this one? I will do only for myself. Such thinking is not there in animals and plants. They just automatically do, instinctively do their part. Whatever they have to provide, they will provide. That's enough. Cow gives milk, nutrition for human beings. Like that one. Plants give food. They don't complain. Why the plant does not say, why should I bear fruit? I'll keep the fruit for myself. No, the fruit is given by plants is meant for other people. Plant itself does not eat its own fruit. Doesn't a plant its own fruit, eat its own fruit? No, it's all for other people. The animals and plants, animals and people partake of the food given by the plants. If the plant sacrifices itself to serve the needs of animals and plants. See, sacrifice is there in every action. In every action, as you can see, this notion of sacrifice. Everything is doing something to help other beings. Clouds are giving the water to sustain plants on this planet, and sun making is possible, like this one. So this is the cosmic yajna cycle. And what we have to do, we have to recognize two things we have to do. First thing, we have to first of all recognize that everything we have, everything we do is made possible only because of so many things we receive from other entities, animals and plants and nature. So we are not independent. Nobody is independent. Everybody, some people are fond of saying, oh, I'm a self-made man. I'm an independent man. I don't owe anything to anybody. I just developed my life, worked hard and made my life myself. There is no such thing possible. Without the help of numerous other people, animals, plants, nature, nobody can do anything, nobody can exist in this world. So when somebody says, I am a self-made man, how is it possible? How many people must have helped you to get education or skill or whatever you have, or wealth, whatever? How many people must have helped you to gain those things just to sustain daily life? How many people must be helping us every moment of our lives just to make it possible for us to eat breakfast, lunch or dinner, and wear clothes and travel, to do all these things which you do every day. Numerous people in all parts of the world are contributing their labor, knowledge, skill. Also animals and plants are contributing. We should recognize that. That is the requirement in yajna. Yajna means recognizing two things. First, recognizing our indebtedness, our interdependence on all other beings in nature. Second thing we have to do, recognizing, second thing is we have to do our part in contributing our little bit to this cosmic cycle. Without giving, if we simply take, then we are, it's equivalent to stealing. Earlier in one verse we say, Bhunjate te tvagam papa ye pachantyatma karanat, verse number 13, second line. Those people who cook for themselves without serving anybody else or anything else, they are being like they are doing sin, leading a sinful life. So, two things has been said. First thing is recognition that everything in my life is made possible by the contribution of so many other people. Some in other countries we don't know. We don't know who is growing the food we are eating. How many people are working to process it, transport it, make it available to us on our doorstep. How many people are working? How many people are working to maintain the roads on which we travel? Like this, if we think, numerous people are working every day to make every small thing possible in our life. Recognition of that indebtedness, recognition of my role in this chain of events. I am not independent. I receive something and I have to give something also. Otherwise, the transaction is not complete. If I only receive and if I don't give, then I am being like a thief. That is what this sloka number 13 says. Then we have to, second thing is we have to perform all actions as offering to other beings, animals, plants, and to nature also. Everything that we do, we cannot do Vedic sacrifices, ritualistic sacrifices as they were doing in the earlier days, but every action that we do should be done keeping in mind the larger interest. This work I am going to do, how does it benefit me? How does it benefit other people? How does it benefit other people, animals and plants and nature? That question we should ask before performing any action. That is the spirit of yajna. Human beings have to cultivate the spirit of yajna. Then only we can be really human beings. Animals do it automatically. They don't think. Plants do it automatically. They don't think. But we have the ability to think and do it intentionally, purposefully, deliberately, consciously. Every action as a sacrifice. That is the point in this part of the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Everything should be done as yajna. Now, what happens if we don't do our part? If we only keep on receiving, if we don't give anything, what happens? That is explained in verse number 16. Verse number 16. Evam pravartitam chakram nanuvartayati hayaha aghayurindriya ramo mogham partha sajivati. Evam pravartitam chakram nanuvartayati hayaha aghayurindriya ramo mogham partha sajivati. Chakra means a cycle. It's a cycle. Everything depends upon everything else. This chakra, this cycle, cosmic cycle of sacrifice, chakram evam pravartitam, set in motion by the Lord Himself. When? At the time of creation. This whole series of events started from the moment of creation, whenever the Lord created this universe. Thus set in motion by the Lord Himself at the time of creation, at the beginning, this cycle, chakram yahana anuvartayati. Anuvartanam means following, conforming. If a person does not conform to this cosmic cycle, does not recognize his or her role in this bigger picture and play the role, what happens to such a person? Aghayurindriya rama Mogam partha sajivati. Aghayu means such a person leads a sinful life. Sinful life means only receiving and not giving. That is not good. We have to give as we receive. We cannot live without receiving. So, for example, our indebtedness to the plant kingdom, how do we show our indebtedness to plant kingdom? We should nourish the plants. And we should not destroy forests. We should not kill trees unnecessarily. We should support plant kingdom in any way that we can do. Everybody cannot go to wherever the trees are and pour water to the trees. That is not physically possible. But wherever we are, from wherever we are, in whatever way we can support the plant kingdom. Many of you may remember Sam, who used to live here. One day we had gone out for some work. We came back and I entered our Vedanta Center building. But Sam didn't enter. He stood outside near a plant. And I asked him, why are you standing there? He looked at the plant and this plant needs water. I passed in front of the same plant. I didn't pay any attention to the plant. I just came in. But he had very keen eyes to see the needs of he recognized this plant needs water. Then he brought water and poured water. It was drying. I didn't pay any attention to it. I was not tuned to that one. But he was tuned to see the plants. See, that kind of attunement to see the needs of nature, other people. If somebody needs something else, we should recognize the need before that person asks us and serve that need if we can, as much as we can, in any way we can. That is the spirit of yajna, without being asked. So we have to play our part. Animals are playing their part. Plants are playing their part. Nature is playing its part to support our life. And if we receive the benefits from all those entities and don't do anything to return anything in return to those entities, then we are leading a sinful life. Aghayu means a sinful life. Indriya Ramaha, they are only interested in enjoying sense pleasures. Some people are there, their only interest is to enjoy life. They are good people, they are not bad people, they are not doing anything bad, but they are not doing what is required to be done. They are educated people, good people, work very hard, make a lot of money, they enjoy, they go on vacation, they enjoy good food and entertainment and all kinds of facilities. They enjoy life, which is okay. Nobody blames them for that. But when it comes to giving, no, they lead on their life. They look after themselves, their comfort, their enjoyment, and there it stops. They don't think about animals and plants and nature. They don't think about their indebtedness to all other entities. They lead an extremely selfish, self-centered life. Such people are leading sinful lives. Indriya Rama, enjoying the pleasures of life for themselves and not sharing anything with other beings. Such people are leading a sinful life. Aghayu Indriya Rama, Mogam Parthasa Jivati. Such a person leads a meaningless life. Mogam means vain, purposeless life. Just enjoying for oneself and then not thinking of the needs of other people, animals, plants, things and nature. Such people are being extremely narrow-minded and selfish, and they live in vain. Nobody benefits from their life. There is no purpose, there is no meaning to their lives, and the only purpose is for them to enjoy. And then what happens? One day old age comes, sickness comes, they die, and whole meaning will have, whole life will have been led in a meaningless, purposeless way. That should not be done. So we have to recognize our indebtedness to everything in nature, other people, animals, plants, things in nature, and we have to pay back at least a part of what we receive. You can do it in many different ways. Everybody need not do it in the same way. In whatever way it is possible. I've seen some people when they take meals. I've seen this one. Before they start eating, they chant this mantra, Brahmarpanam or Gayatri mantra. They chant Om Bhurbhuva Swaha and circle the food with water. Parishechanam it is called. And then they take a few grains of rice or whatever is served on the food, a few grains of it, keep it on the right hand side of the plate, small 4 or 5 grains, and another small lump of rice, another small lump of rice. 5 different things they keep on the right hand side of the plate. A few grains of cooked rice, 5 different things they keep, and then they pray, and then they start eating. What does that mean? Those little, that small quantity of rice that they are keeping on the right side of their plate, after they finish eating, they take it out and put it in front of their house, and all the crows and dogs, they will come and eat that food. That's called Bhutarana. Earlier we discussed Pancharanas, 5 debts that we all owe. It is a humble way, a simple way of recognizing our indebtedness to the animal kingdom. We can't feed all the animals, not possible, but symbolically, in a symbolic way, at least recognizing our indebtedness to the animals. To support the animals, they keep a little bit of food aside before eating. And then after eating, they will put it outside, and the birds and dogs and crows and sparrows, they come and eat that food. In a symbolic way, we have to recognize our indebtedness to whole of nature, other people, animals and plants and things. And it can be done in many different ways. We can do charity in different ways. We can give donation to animal these places where they take care of abandoned animals, animal shelters. We can do volunteer work in hospitals and schools and senior centers and in the parks and everywhere. There is opportunity to do service. We have to find out what is possible, what is feasible for us, and do something. Some people cannot do those things because of whatever reason. Then we can do it in different ways. We can pray for them, other beings. So in this way, in one way, shape or form, we have to fulfill our role in this cosmic chain of events. Simply receiving without giving is leading a sinful life. That is what is described in the verse number 16. And every action has to be done as sacrifice, even eating. In the Bhagavad Gita, there is one verse which we all chant before eating meals. Verse number 24 in chapter 4. Om Brahmarpanam Brahmavihi Brahmagno Brahmana Hutam Brahmaiva tena gantavyam Brahma karma samadhina. What does that verse mean? That verse means this action of eating is an action of sacrifice. How? Everything that is involved in any action is what is that one? Brahman itself. In the Upanishad we study all this is really Brahman. This whole universe is nothing but Brahman. Sarvam kalu idam Brahma, says Chandogya Upanishad. Aham Brahmasmi, every individual is Brahman. Tattvamasi, every individual is Brahman. Ayamatma Brahma, this all individuals are Brahman. Everything is Brahman. So when you perform any action, what we are doing? We are seeing Brahman in every action. Brahmarpanam, offering is Brahman. Every action is made possible by the power of the Lord. Brahmahavihi, the thing that is offered, havis means the food that is being offered. That is also Brahman. Brahmagnav, in the fire of Vaishwanara present in everybody's body, that is Brahman. Brahmana Hutam, by whom it is offered, by the person who is eating, he is also Brahman. If you see the presence of Brahman in every action like this one, then that is performing yajna. that kind of attitude has to be developed by us. Everything is seen as sacrifice. In everything we see the presence of Brahman. Now we will go to verse number 17. Up to verse number 16, we discussed the importance of action. Importance of action, importance of performing all action as yajna. Now, in the beginning of this chapter, in response to Arjuna's question, Sri Krishna had said there are two paths. If you go back to verse number 3 in chapter 13, Sri Krishna begins his reply to Arjuna's question with this verse. He says, in this world, two kinds of disciplines have been prescribed by me. The path of knowledge and the path of action. If you go to verse number 3 in chapter 3, Bhagavan Sri Krishna had said, Lokyesmin dvividha nishtha pura prokta maya nagha. Pura means in earlier times, in ancient times, at the time of creation, dvividha nishtha maya prokta. Two kinds of disciplines were described by me. What are they? Jnana yogena sankhyanam. Sankhyanam means for those people who have a tendency to pursue the path of knowledge. Jnana marga. For them, Jnana yogena, by the path of Jnana yoga, and Karma yogena yoginam, for those people who have tendency to perform action, for Karma yogis, for them Karma yoga. Jnana yoga, Karma yoga. Two yogas were prescribed at the time of creation by the Lord Himself. So far, from verse number 4 to 16, the path of Karma yoga has been described. The path of Karma yoga has been described in verses number 4 to 16 in chapter number 3. What is the description? Performing every action as yoga, as offering, as worship. As Sri Krishna says several times in the Gita, when we go to the end of the chapter, we will see verse number 30. There Sri Krishna says, offer all actions to me. Again in 9th chapter 9, verse 27, Sri Krishna says, offer all actions to me. Again chapter 18, verse number 57, Sri Krishna says, offer all actions to me. Whatever you do, offer it to me. Chetasa sarva karmani mai sanyasya matparaha. Like this, many places in the Gita, Sri Krishna says, whatever you do, offer it to me. Offering means sacrifice. Perform all actions as sacrifice. And this is what people have to do. Everybody has to do. And that has been described in verses number 4 to 16. Now from 17 onwards, the second path is described. Jnana yoga is being described. For a person pursuing the path of Jnana yoga, the path of knowledge, that person has relinquished all work on this, engaged in contemplation on the self exclusively. Many people cannot do that one. Most of us have to perform actions as sacrifice, and then that will prepare us to pursue the path of Jnana yoga. We will see the connection between these two yogas in a little bit. So, verse number 17 onwards, the path of Jnana yoga has been described. So, verse number 17. Yastu atmaritare vasyat atmatriptascha manavaha atmanyeva cha santushtaha tasya karyam na vidyate. Very nice verse. Verse number 17. Yastu atmaritare vasyat atmatriptascha manavaha atmanyeva cha santushtaha tasya karyam na vidyate. For a person who takes delight in the self within. Very different kind of people. Most of the people, what do? We look for happiness in the outside world. Happiness in property, possession, money, wealth, fame, youth, beauty, good looks, family life, children, grandchildren. In these things we find happiness. These are all outside things. Bahya sparsheshu asaktatma. In Bahya sparsha means external sense objects. We are looking for happiness there. This majority of people. But there are some people who look for happiness inside in the self. They don't look for happiness outside. The disadvantages of looking for happiness in the outside objects we have seen before. Verse number 22 in chapter 5. We will come to that again. It has come many times before. The disadvantages of looking for happiness outside objects, the problem with looking for happiness in a family, life, profession, job, work, money, property, possessions, and all these things are severe. They are severely limited. We saw those things, they will come again. But a rare person here and there, such a person looks for happiness inside within oneself, where Sachidananda is present. God is present in all. God is present in all the beings, and such a person looks for happiness in the self within. That's what this verse number 17 says. Yastu atmaritireva. Atmariti means happiness, enjoyment, ananda. Atmariti means looking for happiness, experiences happiness in the self within. Outside things don't matter. They don't depend upon outside things. Whether there is food or not, or money or not, or clothes or not, or body is well or ill, those things don't bother them. They are always happy with the self within. Such people are very rare. Just to atmaritireva syat atmatriptascha manavaha. Content within oneself, not looking for anything outside. If a person looks for happiness inside, infinite happiness is hidden within us all. Infinite happiness is hidden. The outside happiness is not infinite, it's all finite happiness. They begin and an end. Everything that brings happiness outside, they have a beginning and an end, and even during the between the beginning and end, they have some problems. Nothing comes free. Everything is conditional, temporary, fleeting. That we know. But the joy that comes from the self within is infinite, eternal, unconditional. It's always there. Infinite joy. There's nothing else that can make it more in the outside world. If you give $100 or $1,000 to such person, that does not make him any more happy than he is already happy to the maximum extent. Infinite happiness he is enjoying from the self. There is nothing in the world that can enhance that happiness. So they don't hanker for outside things. Nateshu ramate buddhaho. In the outside sense objects, a wise person who has such ability to see the self within does not take any delight in outside objects. They don't care for outside objects. So, yes, atmatriptascha manavaha, one is content within the self within. Atmaneva santushtaha, who is very happy, who finds satisfaction in the self alone. Atmani eva. Tasya karyam na vidyate. For such a person, there is no need to do anything. Because all actions are motivated by desires, as we saw before. Why do we perform any action? We perform actions because we have desires that we want to fulfill. We eat because we want to fulfill the desire to eat. We do other things to fulfill the desire. Such a person has no desire, because whatever happiness all desires bring, fulfillment of desires bring, is already there in the self. So the self is a source of infinite joy. Sachidananda is there within us all. They have contacted that Sachidananda. They are experiencing it. Then for them there is nothing to be done outside. There is no obligation. There is nothing to be done. There is no compulsion. They may still perform action. They will. They are not keeping quite idle. They are not idle people. They work hard, but not for themselves. Not to find happiness. They work hard for loka sangraha, for helping other people to help the world. Out of the fullness of their heart, they are always busy working for the well-being of other beings, animals, plants, things, and nature. For example, people like Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi. He was a jnani, Atma Jnani. He was sitting there. First of all, he used to live in a small cave on the top of the Arunachala hill in a town called Tiruvannamalai in South India, in Tamil Nadu. And then after some time he came down and started living in a small ashrama at the base of the hill. Then there was no duty for him. But he would not be idle, he would be active. He would get up at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock every morning. He would go to the kitchen where people were preparing food, breakfast for other people, residents of the ashrama and for guests. He would participate in the cooking, he would cut vegetables and help in the cooking. All that he was doing. And he was answering people's questions. Why was he doing all this? There was no compulsion, but he would do it voluntarily, just to help other people, just to play some part. Otherwise, there was no need. He used to always sit down there. He didn't have any possessions. All the possessions he had was one piece of loin cloth. Sometimes he had one towel also, sometimes. Otherwise, only one piece of loin cloth. Sometimes he had a stick that he himself made from the branch of a tree. That was all the worldly possessions he had. He didn't have anything else. No possessions, nothing to take care of. He didn't need anything because he was always happy. Always happy, always satisfied, always joyful, always blissful. From where? From the self within. For such a people, what is there to be done? No requirement, no action, nothing to be done. They are complete, they are full, they are fulfilled. They are always absorbed in the bliss of the self, in the Atman, in the Atmananda, in Brahmananda. They are absorbed in it. For such people who have followed the path of Jnana Marga, or they may have followed the path of karma also earlier, when they have reached that stage, there is no duty, there is no obligation. That is what this verse number 17 says. Verse number 17, Yastu atmaritireva syad atmatraptascha manamaha atmanyeva cha santushtaha tasya karyam na vidyate. For the person who delights solely in the self, who is content with the self, who finds satisfaction alone in the self, there is no duty to perform, no compulsion. Still they will do the work for helping other people. Loka sangrahame vapi sampashyan kartum arhasi, Sri Krishna says later. Just to help other people, just to set a model for other people. Because if they remain idle, other people also tend to remain idle. So just to set up a model for other people and to help other people, they perform action. They will not be sitting idle in one place. That is verse number 17. So verses number 4 to 16, the path of karma. Karma yogena yoginam. For ordinary people, majority of people, we have to perform our actions. We cannot say I don't have any duty. Everybody has duty. Everybody has 5 debts to pay back. Our indebtedness to God, Devarana, we discussed this earlier. Our indebtedness to the rishis, ancient sages who gave us the accumulated wealth of knowledge. Our indebtedness to our parents and grandparents and ancestors for bringing us to this life and taking care of us and giving us education, healthcare, everything. Our indebtedness to other people, numerous other people who are helping us in every way to make everything possible in our lives. Finally, our indebtedness to animal kingdom and plant, both arena for animals and plants. Without them, we cannot live. Human life is not possible on this planet without the coexistence of animal life and plant life. So, the 5 indebtedness loans we have to fulfill every day in some way, shape or form, in whatever way it is convenient. So, that is requirement, obligatory duties. But for a jnani who has reached self-realization, who is There is no required duty, but they will still perform action. They are not idle people. Like Swami Vivekananda, how hard he worked, day and night he worked every day, and he sacrificed his health and comfort in everything. Why did he have to do? He didn't have to do it anything for himself. He did it only to help the other people, to help the world. Such people are there. So this verse number 17 describes such people. And then the continuation of the description of such people, verse number 18. Naiva tasya kritenartho na kriteneha kaschana nachasya sarva bhuteshu kaschidarthavyapashrayah. Verse number 18. Such people, such a person has nothing to gain from work done or left undone. On no being do such people depend as regards any interest of their own. They don't depend upon anything else or anybody else. In our case, we depend upon so many other things. We depend upon so many other people to provide the facilities for every action that is possible in our lives. We depend upon the people to grow the food that we eat, etc. We have seen that one. We depend upon so many people. We depend upon animals and plants and nature to sustain our life, to make everything possible in our lives. But for such people, they don't depend upon anything. If something is there, it's okay. If something is not there, it's okay. If body is there, it's okay. If the body is not there, it's okay. How does a liberated person, Jivan Mukta, live is described in the Vivek Chudamani, where Swamiji Atmagyanji is teaching Monday nights. A Jivan Mukta person, liberated person, he lives freely. There is no obligation. There is nothing to be done. Does not care about the body. Whether body is well or ill, other people praise or blame, it is of no consequence to them. And people like us, we have to perform our obligatory duties. Nachasya sarvabhuteshu kaschidarthavyapashrayah. They don't depend upon anything else or anybody else or anything else. They are independent, and then their joy comes from the self within. Nothing else is required outside. There is one verse in the Vivek Chudamani, verse number 509. There, Shankaracharya describes how such a person, enlightened person, lives totally independently. See, for ordinary people, we require so many things. We require food and clothing and medicine, other things for our daily life. But they don't require anything else, because it doesn't matter how the body lives or goes. Swami Vivekananda says in the Song of Sannyasin, heed there no more how body lives or goes, its task is done, let karma float it down, let one put garlands on, another kick this frame, say not, no praise or blame can be, where praiser praised and blamer blamed are one. Thus be thou calm, Sannyasin bold, say Om Tat Sat Om. What other people think about us, whether they show respect to us or not, these things don't matter to them. The sky thy roof, the grass thy bed, and food what chance may bring. Whatever comes with that, they are happy. Nothing comes, that's okay too. So that is the state of a enlightened person. Now we'll just read verse number 19. I will discuss that in detail next time. Concluding instruction in this segment. There, verse number 19, Sri Krishna says, Tasmadasaktas satatam karyam karma samachara asakto hyacharan karma paramapnoti purushaha. Concluding this segment, Sri Krishna gives instructions for people like us who are pursuing the path of karma. Tasmad satatam asakta karyam karma samachara. Therefore, unattached Asaktaha, unattached, always do the work that has to be done. Karyam karma. We all have some obligatory duties. Everybody has something to do. So whatever is required of us, that work we have to do as yajna, in the spirit of sacrifice, as described before. Asakto hyacharan karma paramapnoti purushaha. By performing all work with detachment, as offering, as sacrifice, a person achieves the supreme param apnoti. So what happens is, this will be described in the subsequent verses. If we perform all actions in a selfless spirit as a sacrifice, mind becomes pure from selfishness and attachment. When the mind becomes pure, the mind will be able to reflect on the nature of the self. Without purity of mind, if I simply keep on saying, I am Brahman, I am Brahman, I am Brahmasmi, that does not mean anything. That does not produce any result. It only increases the pride. Oh, I am Jnana Yoga, I am doing, I am Brahmasmi. That does not mean anything. It does not work. We have to prepare our mind. Mind has to become free from selfishness, attachment to karma phala, attachment to all other things. When the mind becomes completely free and from impurities and pure, then we are in a position to inquire into the nature of the self. Who am I? Makes sense at that point. Right now we are in the preparatory stage. We have to perform all our actions with joy, with love, as sacrifice, as offering, thinking about the consequences of our work on us and other people, animals, plants and things, now and in the future. Something may be all right now, but if it causes some problem 2 years from now, then we should be aware of it now before performing the action. So this is the instruction. Verse number 19 has the concluding instruction. The instruction is, perform all actions without attachment, as offering, as yajna. By doing this, our mind becomes pure, free from attachment and selfishness, and then that paves the way for self-inquiry. So we will stop here and also say the closing prayer. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. I'll be happy to respond. Closing prayer. Om sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om shanti shanti shanti. Om, may all be happy, may all be free from afflictions, may all realize what is noble and auspicious, may no one be subject to misery. Om peace, may there be peace and joy in our hearts, may there be peace and harmony amongst all beings, and may there be peace everywhere in nature. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sarvam Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Thank you all and stay well. Thank you.